Hello there, fourth graders. It's me, Miss Danielson, your art teacher. Feels like a while since I've seen you. Well, duh, it's been a while since I've seen you. I guess it just feels like a while since I've recorded a lesson, but it's just been a week. I don't know. Time is a little weird right now, isn't it? Okay, I'm excited for today, and I'm hoping that, gosh, when was that? A month ago, 2 months ago? You were able to make it to school. It was for one of the supply pickups because fourth graders had some different materials than any of the other grades. If you didn't, we can figure out some workarounds. But for today, we're going to be using those watercolor paints and the brush that I sent home for you. I hope you have it. I hope your little brother or sister didn't steal it from you. We'll make it work though, so don't sweat it. We're going to do something called showing value, which should hopefully make your brain go ding ding. I remember that. We talked about value in shading. If not, I'll remind you, don't you worry. Here we go. Regular old regular. Repeat after me, even if you do it silently or if you whisper. You're going to need this today. I am an artist. I am a creator of ideas and a solver of problems. Sometimes the problems are on my paper. Sometimes they're with my neighbor. Sometimes they're inside of myself. But I know I can solve problems because mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. And I am proud to be an artist. And I am proud of you today and every day. Today is going to be some risk taking and the fact that watercolors are not super forgiving, meaning there's no eraser for a watercolor. But again, I've got a solution for that. Even if today ends up being a colossal total disaster of all time, I have a sneaky way of hiding those mistakes. So stick with me through the whole thing. Okay, so here's value. Let me push play. You've seen this before. It's only like 50 something seconds. Oh, no, this is a long one. I'll stop it early. We won't watch the whole thing.
The word photograph comes from two Greek words that translate to light drawing. Some people describe photography then as drawing with light. Light defines objects and literally enables us to see things. Artists create the illusion of light by being able to produce a wide range of tonal and color values. Value is one of the 7 elements of art, along with line, shape, form, texture, color, and space. Value is how light or dark a given color or hue is. Values can be better understood when they are visualized as a scale or a gradient. Here's the value scale for this gray tone.
Okay, do you remember doing that or watching this video? It's a good one. And it'll be in the slides if you want to click through. I just was like, I thought I was sticking in the 1 minute one, not the 3-minute 36-second video. But that's okay. They kind of look the same. So again, value is the lightness and darkness of a color. What you can see here is the grayscale, and I'll show you a few of those later and talk to you about how I had to work with them in my education. I love some of these images. I think it's so cool. Now, all 3 of these that you're seeing on the screen right now are in gray tones, and that's probably the easiest. I was going to say color, but I don't know. Do we define black and white and gray as colors? Not usually. Usually they're neutrals. But anywho, just for the sake of today, if we call them color, that's okay. The lightness and darkness of this color is easiest to see, but you can also see it with other colors. What I wouldn't recommend for today, just because this is so new, is yellow. So even if it's your favorite color, and you're going to see my desk in a second, and it's kind of a mustardy yellow, but it's really hard to see the differences in the value of yellow when you're first starting. So I would encourage you to, for today, use a different color, and we'll talk about that in a sec. What are we doing? We'll find out. Oops, don't start that video. No! couldn't escape the drums. Again, here is some value shown in this landscape. And I didn't think about this when I was actually making the slides, but then in the video, it just kind of like clued into me. He was talking about the elements of art: line, shape, value, color, texture, and he said space. Sometimes we think about outer space, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the space around us. And when you were working on landscapes, that is the distance. So that becomes the space. So we're actually going to show distance in value today. Look how I'm taking all the things you've learned the last month and bringing them together in one amazing project. It's like I planned it or something. I did. I planned it. Okay. Here's something random, but I thought it was cool. A few years ago, the term ombre really became kind of really popular, and it's just value. So even in this chest of drawers, where they've painted each drawer slightly darker or slightly lighter than the one above or below it, you can see value or ombre. So here we go. You've heard me say this already. You heard it in the video. Value is changing the lightness and darkness of one color. So my sweater is pink, although it kind of looks white in the screen today. Can we get the... No, can't do it. The lighting is funky because I'm in front of the window. The value of pink is changing because it has white in it. What color did my pink sweater start out as? Do you know? Do you know? It's a tint. It's color plus white when they were mixing this. If you guessed red, you are correct. So pink is the tint of red. This very like icy blue up here at the top is the tint of probably right in here, this turquoise. As it goes lower, they're not making tints anymore. This is where I'm going to really confuse you. They're using black to create a shade. Now you're like, what? You taught us to shade and we used a pencil or a colored pencil. It had nothing to do with black. I know. It's one of those words that can be used multiple ways. Kind of like value could be talking about money and how much something's worth. But in art, it's the lightness and darkness. So forgive me for your confusion. Here's some value scales. So I told you a second ago that I would talk to you about like my history of being an art student. These were things I don't even know how many times I've had to do this. So here we can see examples of shading. And I swear it was like every college class I took, art class, we had to do this shade and shade and shade and shade and shade. Then we had to do them also with color, with textures and patterns. Like by putting the lines closer together, it actually looks like you're changing the value, even though over here you're still using black. So this might be an idea if you don't have any paints today. Maybe we can come back to this and you could actually still do the project, but use a marker or even just a flat out pencil and create a pattern. So we'll make it work. Again, cool black and white photos. You can always see the values. So you see it all through even her hair, the reflections, her clothes. But look at the way the stairs got progressively darker. Lightest at the top, darkest at the bottom. Keep remembering that because you're going to need it. Because we are going to create a landscape painting. Woo woo. Showing value. I think probably the easiest is kind of doing this landscape look because it is mountains, and mountains could be any line or shape because they're nature. They can be irregular. They don't have to be perfect. I've done this before with like the buildings, like a cityscape, and that was a little bit tougher because you had to have your sharp, clean lines, to show the horizontal and vertical of the buildings. But with mountains, if it smears a little, no big deal, because it might look like that in real life. These can be done with so many different colors. So, here's a water one. We did this years ago. And it's kind of giving you the sneak peek. Do you see how they added the marker? If you have mistakes today, that's going to be a way of maybe fixing it. Just hide it under some marker lines. So in watercolor, We don't have white. I didn't give any of you white watercolor because, well, I guess they do make white watercolors. Wait, did anybody get a white watercolor? I'll be honest, I didn't pack those bags. We had our wonderful other staff help me with that. I don't think you did. Anyway, you should have had a color, but without white, how can you make the pink of my sweater? I'll give you some think time. Feel free to yell it out. Maybe I can hear you. Just kidding. Don't yell it out. Plus, I can't hear you. It's water. If you want to make the red turn to pink, you add a ton of water and just a little bit of the paint. So the amount of water that you have today, that you use today, is going to either lighten it or darken it if you have less water. So you can still control your value even without white, even without black. So here's that same kind of grayscale that you just heard me talk about or you saw in the video. More water, less water. More water, almost looks white, you barely see it. Less water. So it's more paint or less paint, but you have to change the amount of water too. Oh, isn't that beautiful? So again, far away, we're going to have those looking light. As they get closer, move down the page, they'll get darker also. Although I know that there's some lightness in here, it kind of gives the illusion of fog, which is pretty cool. Boy, it was foggy Sunday, wasn't it? Anyway, this also replicates the atmosphere in real life. Like colors are crisp and darker when they're close up in objects, and then when they get farther away, they do tend to look lighter or fuzzier. So yeah, I'm just doing this so that you practice controlling your paint and your water. But it's kind of based in reality too. This is really what would happen if this was a photograph. Depending on the color that I gave you, that's the color that you got. So if in the last slide I gave you blue, you can use blue. This one is the blacks and the grays. You could use purple. You could use all kinds of things. Green, here's one in green. Again, another purple. Well, you could even use the orange. Oh, there's the pink I keep talking about. Green, maybe on an aqua. These are actually computer created, like in graphics. But same concept, even if you're using the computer. All right, back to paint. Although these are not watercolor, these are tempera paint. But again, same concept. And this might be something kind of fun that you want to do. Adding in some different shapes of trees in there. Maybe it hides a mistake too. I just thought of that. I didn't think of it when I was talking about it earlier. But you sure could hide something behind there, couldn't you? This is what I was thinking of. If you have a major mistake, that's cool. Just add in some patterns or designs. No biggie. We'll distract them with our creativity. It looks a little more whimsical instead of realistic, but that's all right. That's kind of fun. Okay, so what do you need today? Piece of paper. Thicker paper is better. If all you have left at this point is like notebook or copy paper, it'll work, but just know that you got to be really gentle with your brush because the fibers will tear. Watercolor paint. You might have gotten a collection where you might have just gotten one little square. That's what I've got. I have not used this in a long time, so I'm going to have to warm it up. Water. I think you know what water looks like. I've got it in a little cup. It's a recycled cool-up container. I did put paper towel underneath my water, just like as if we were at school. You'll need a paintbrush. Wait a second. Not this paintbrush. What a knucklehead. Paintbrush. This one's a little bit on the smaller side for me, but I think it's better than the alternative. And it's what I could find, so I'm going to go with it. And then a little plastic lid. Now, this is actually just the top of that cool-up container. If you don't have something from recycle and you're using something from your cupboard, make sure you ask. I'm trying to think if this could ruin anything. Probably not. If it's plastic or glass, the watercolor I don't think would stain it. But some of you might have like actually something out of clay or just a porous surface, and watercolor could. And I don't want anyone getting in trouble at home. So best thing would be something just from the recycling bin, or or definitely ask. Okay, ask an adult in the house. Say, hey, what could I use to kind of mix some paint on? It'll wash off, probably 90% sure. Okay, moving on. I'm gonna try something. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna pause the recording because I don't want you to see the production that's happening behind me. Just kidding. I just need to turn on my document camera, and I might make a mistake, and that'll be embarrassing. Oh, surprise! Here we are. Wait a second. What just happened? Oh man, I got the document camera set up, as you can see, and then it just disappeared from the screen. Oh, this is awkward. This is what I was hoping to avoid. Okay, I'm going to pause it one more time. What? How come it keeps disappearing? Oh, alright, I'm just going to try this. There, now can you see it? Yes, you can. Well, so much for being tricky and trying to look like high quality, like I got it together. Okay, anyway, well, and you can totally see it. It's like blocking my way. But I'm happy. It's a victory. I had to switch computers to make this happen. Okay, so I'm set up. I got my water right here. It's still clean. It's amazing. This is the plastic recycle. I got paper towel underneath. And we don't want to see this because that looks weird. There we go. And my paper. Now, we might be tempted, because it's a landscape, to go horizontally. But because we're showing all of the values up and down vertically on our paper, you're going to want to turn your paper vertically. And I probably would not actually draw the line of the mountains, but if you want to give yourself a goal, maybe put a dot on this side. So what I'm doing is just marking like how many different kind of mountain ranges I'm going to put in there. So the lightest will be up here. There's a tiny dot, you can't even see it. And then I'm going to add a little bit more paint to my color mix, and then a little bit more paint. And then by the time I get to the bottom, that's the darkest. Now, your household might have different rules about like painting on the table. I forgot to talk about that. So worst comes to worst, stick something underneath it so that you are not going to get in trouble. Maybe you get some leftover newspapers or magazine. I've just got an extra paper towel. I don't really want to do that. Plus, I'm not going to get in trouble because it would be me because I'm the adult in the house. Anyway, think about that. I suppose I should have thought about it earlier before you get started. Okay, what am I doing? I am making sure my brush is clean, grabbing a bunch of water. I'm going to make a little puddle. Boy, this is funny. It's like balling up, isn't it? It's hard to make one puddle. They're all kind of dripping together. Now, could I have poured it? Sure, but that seems messy. So now I'm going to come over and grab some paint. Oh, lovely. Now, right here, it's looking a little bit darker than maybe I would want it. So I actually have like a bluish color. But when I put it on the white paper is going to kind of activate kind of like almost as if it's white paint. So the white paper will show through. Watercolor is transparent, and that'll actually look even lighter than what we see on the plastic. Okay, here I go. So I'm going to touch my brush, holding it like a pencil. Shouldn't hurt, shouldn't feel weird. And I'm just going to kind of wiggle my way across the paper, noticing how it got lighter as I went across. It just needs a little more refresh. There we go. I went back to get the paint, add a little bit more in here. There we go. Now that's my line. Now this, I forgot to say this also. Actually, I forgot to think it. This project could take a little bit longer than normal art because we want to have each layer dry in between values. So I'm putting it in here, and I'm going to kind of cheat. Actually, I'm going to leave a little white line in between, and you're like, what in the world? You can barely see it. I know, kind of weird, but it'll show up when it dries. So right now it's going to look a little bit blotchier maybe. It'll get better. Okay, so how am I going to make a darker value? Well, truly I need to wait about 10 minutes, but I've already stalled long enough. So now I'm going to grab a little bit more paint, and I'm going to add it to my mix. Ooh, that one looks really dark. I'm kind of nervous. If I try it and it ends up being too dark, I'm going to pause, get some more water, lighten it back up. So I'm always able to change it here, not necessarily here. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go down toward the bottom and test it. Is it too dark, you guys? I think it is. Okay, glad I tried that. Do you know why I tested it at the bottom? Can you think about it? What's going to be down in this area of my paper? We can't see. It's going to be the darker color. So I figured if I put it down there and it's a little dark, I'll hide it. Okay, I think this is going to be better. So I come back up to the previous mountain range. Oh, I wish that was dry. And I'm going to paint it. I left a little bit of that white. Boy, now I wonder if that's what those other people had done in their example, where it looked kind of foggy. I wonder if they just left a little layer. So what would happen is if I touch it, it's all of this darker value is going to go whoosh, 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 and it's going to fill up all that lighter. It'll probably make that noise too. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So I should have just paused. I could have gone to eat lunch, come back, work on this a little bit more. Oh well. I'm in it. Well, that's interesting. That doesn't bother me as much anymore. I kind of grabbed it from the bottom and pushed it up into the mountain above. And you know what? I gotta wait. So I'm gonna stop this because it's just getting really good and very pretty, and I want to be able to show you the cool trick. Although I do like that little bit of white in there, but it's also going to kind of look like an outline, and that's not what we were looking for. Okay, so you won't even know what's happened, but I'm pausing. I'll be back. Maybe I'll go blow dry this with a hairdryer. That could work. All right, I really actually did go get the hairdryer. My patience today is not where it should be. All right, and I painted a second one, and then I blew dry that one too, because I wanted to show you what it could look like without that the white line, although it's okay too. Now, if you're noticing it's looking a little blotchy, mine or yours, that's okay. That's very watercolory. That's not a word, but that's very typical of watercolors. Like, that's kind of the style. So there's no shame in our blotchy game because that's what watercolors usually look like. All right, here's my second one. And again, it's dry now too. So hopefully I didn't test this. I'm going to make it work. Hopefully this is not going to be too dark, but we'll find out. So what I wanted to show you in the other one is if your first value is dry, the lightest is dry, you can actually overlap a little bit. That way there's no gap in between your values. It'll just go from the lightest to the next darker, to the next darker. And you're probably going, oh, that's not that dark. No, I swear that white paper really can trick you sometimes. The illusion of darkness on the white paper is tricky. Now, this is not watercolor paper. Watercolor paper absorbs really well. So do you see how I can kind of see that darker? It dried that quickly just when I was moving to the next part. That's okay. Again, blotchiness is very typical. I'm coming in here and blending it. We talked about blending with color pencil, but you can do it with watercolor also. I'm not so worried that it's lighter down here because I'm going to hide that anyway. All right, so let me show you again on my number 1, which is now my number 2. Now I'm on the third value. So I'm coming down here and getting kind of dark. So what you didn't see was that I mixed up another little blob of paint. This one has more paint in it. A little bit of water I had to add because I'd used it on the other ones. But it's progressively getting darker. Not technically a shade, though. Why is it not necessarily a shade? What am I missing? If you answered black, you are correct. So I'm just darkening it back actually to the pure color, to the straight up, what did it come from when I got it out of the container color? And that was just this kind of violet, purple, bluish. It's getting there. I think if I was to do it again, I would have probably gone a little bit darker in my original light. I'm happier, I think, with this one. Yeah, because you can kind of see it. You know, I'm rusty. I'm remembering now when I used to teach this lesson in person with kids, because I've done this one. Gosh, it's been a long time now. We actually had 2 papers working at the same time, so one could dry while you're painting on the other. All right, so down over here, I'm on catching up. I'm on the third value. Is it going to be the same? I don't know. Probably not. Oop, it's a little bit wet. This second value, that's okay. It just might get fuzzy. So instead of a crisp, smooth line, sharp line of mountains, it might get a little fuzzy. Yep, it's starting to get fuzzy. That's okay. I'll pretend those are trees in the distance. And again, bring it down here. I'm going to have one more mountain range, and it's pretty much going to be the straight up color straight from the container with minimal water. It's not going to be dry. Oops, I got it on the table. Remember, that's what I was telling you about? Beware of your house rules and who will be mad if you get paint on the table. Although, I don't know. It wipes right off. But I'm not in your house making the rules. So I respect whoever that is. Okay, I'm going to put this one up, bring it back to this one. And again, this is now I'm on the last row. Oopsie, I'm blocking my own view. Is it a row? Kind of. The last value, the last mountain, what do I want to call it? So this is just plain old paint right from the container. And I'm just wiggling. Again, mountains are natural. So there's going to be some that are really tall, some that are more pointy, some that are more round. And you know what? Then you've got your own style. Oh, was that even on the screen? All right, sorry about that. All right, I do think I need a little bit of water just because it's not moving like I want to. Oh, there we go. So if you saw me, I went straight into the water container. I did not go into the little plastic lid for that water. I could have. There's nothing fancy here. All right, this is going to get really painty on the table. So I'll be a good adult and I will put a paper towel underneath so that I'm teaching you to be respectful of your space. Maybe you are not even at home. Maybe you are at someone else's house or daycare. Okay. So, oh, if you are, you could teach this to other people because it's easy. Isn't it easy? Look at that. We just did this gorgeous landscape. Oh, I was going to turn it and show you like you were sitting in my class. This gorgeous landscape that shows value in the distance. Oh, I wish that wouldn't have worked out. Oh, and I also wish I wouldn't have touched it with my dirty finger. Okay, so fixing things. What am I going to do? Look, there's a bird flying in the mountains. But we can't see it all because it's off the side of the paper. I don't know. Does that even look like a bird flying in the mountains? What else could I have made that into? The moon, a cloud. Could have been a tree that went all the way up there. Well, that is weird, you guys. Maybe I'll cut my paper. I don't know. So the cool thing about this is it was so quick to do. I don't feel like I've spent hours of my life on something and only to then ruin it with one crazy bird. It might look okay in the end. I might put another one on there, but I feel like I need to wait for that to dry. Okay, back to my numero dos, which still has some water in it. So that might get a little fuzzy. And again, I'm just going to wiggle my brush across the paper. Ooh, this one's better. And then bring that paint from the line down, because it wouldn't make sense if it stops. Would it? That would be weird. What would be down there? I guess a lake or something. I don't know. Well, I could have it fade off like that. What's a snowfield? You can't see because my head's blocking it. I could do something like that. Can you see right here where it's getting a little fuzzy? That's pretty. Sometimes I do that on purpose, but that's because this layer was not dry. And so the wet paint is now trying to find the water again. It's like it's in the desert. Okay, so this is definitely, I'm liking this one more than I liked my other one. But I feel like both were successes because I learned, oh, look, that's kind of fun. Except for the poor bird. Yeah, I've lost my other wing. Anyway, value in a landscape with one color watercolor, you know? And I don't know if yours was like mine. Mine's kind of old, but look at how much we can do with just a small amount of one color. You could do more with these. It's called monochromatic if you want to Google monochromatic art, because there's people who only use one color in their art. Many of you were doing that with shading last week. Okay, oh, important thing, clean up when you're done. Wah, wah. It's always the downside. But I have a feeling, knowing you, you're not just going to stop at one of these. You're probably going to be looking around the house, scrounging for paper, because just like I felt like I got better on my second one, I think you're going to want to try more than one, I betcha. And experimenting maybe with your lines. Boy, if you had an orange or brown or red paint, wouldn't the desert look good? So instead of maybe such triangular mountains, you could do some in the background that are more like that. And then as they come closer, they're those like, what are those called? It's the second time I can't remember. I don't know. But they look like geometric shapes, kind of. There's some word for them. Somebody tell me. Email me. What are desert mountains called? I don't know. All right. Have fun. You landscape value watercolor artist, you. Add this to your resume. Somebody will hire you just for this. I don't know. Oh, well, maybe. Maybe this is our career. Okay. Take care. See ya. Send me pictures, would you please? See you when I see you.